Welcome into Boxing Scene Today here at the Pro Box TV studio as well. Keyshawn Davis, a top lightweight in a crowded division. So many great fights ahead of him. All he had to do was win a fight. Well, didn't even make weight for the fight, let alone not having the fight happen. A locker room altercation afterward involving his brothers. It just goes from bad to worse for a man who was in a fantastic position in a crowded weight class. Jimmy Smith alongside the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi. Gentlemen, before we get into this whole thing, I got to tell you guys, I get asked a lot by fighters, I'm sure you do too. Hey, man, I want to get into broadcasting. How do I do what you guys do? And the first thing I tell them, be reliable. Do your prep, show up on time, be early, be ready to go. And they look at me like I'm crazy.
Create a reputation
for reliability. And I go, they look at me like I'm crazy. I go, you'd be surprised how many people aren't, right? Who just don't show up.
Qualified, but aren't.
Qualified, but aren't reliable. Paulie, let's keep going. Is missing weight by 4.3 pounds the boxing version of showing up 2 hours late for the show? In a sense, the reliability is huge.
Yeah. You know, I got to say, this past weekend's main events in general were disappointing on the scale. I mean, we ourselves were had a situation in our Pro Box TV main event that also fell out with Justin Paldo missing weight against Juan Carlos Burgos. So with Keyshawn Davis missing weight in the ESPN main event, you start to think, you know, is it a generational thing? You know, like it's like these guys just taking it because I feel like guys miss weight more now. Like think about our generation, it was less, but think about older generations. Like older generations, you never hear a guy.
Also
fewer weight classes too.
Fewer weight classes, which means you have less options to drain down.
But it's also the way they're missing weight now. Now they're missing weight.
It's the I don't care.
4 pounds. They used to miss weight. I remember Brent Rios used to miss weight a lot, but he would miss it by a little. He'd miss it by a pound.
Nah, he was trying. He was just
trying. He was
degeneracy.
These guys just go, I'm not making this weight. It's a complete lack of respect for the legitimacy of these titles, of the promotions.
I've seen. I remember there was one guy that missed weight in my career when I fought Pablo Cesar Cano, who was a good fighter. You know, it was my first WBA welterweight title defense. He showed up heavy. We gave him an hour. He showed up heavier an hour later. All right, bro. Now you're making a jerk off out of me. You know what I mean? Like, you know, now I know. What are you doing? You know, so that's the kind of things we're seeing now.
I've had guys that were going to come in heavy, and they contacted the promoter, and then the promoter contacted me and say, "Hey, can we pump the weight up?
Make a catch."
That's the way you do it. I feel like you.
If you want to save a fight,
you couldn't do that with Davis because it was a title fight. But you could have done that on our Pro Box TV main event, for example. If Team Paldo would have called in like couple of days before and said, "Hey, listen, can we bump the weight up?
We're off schedule.
And can we, you know, I'll give some of my purse." You can come to an agreement. You got 2 days to come to an agreement instead of the weigh-in surprising everyone and nobody can come to an agreement because it's all on the fly, you know. But with Davis, it's a title fight. It's disappointing because it's at the elite level. You know, it's right there, and it's also a fighter who everybody's been excited about because in a lightweight division where the fights don't happen, even though it's got a lot of talent, this guy was saying the right things. You know, he got you excited. Like, man, he can fight. He's not just the guy who's calling out guys because he just wants to make money and he can't fight. He can fight his ass off.
Young in his career, right?
And he wants all the smoke. Dude, like that's the kind of thing you want out of your fighter. But now you're starting to pick up a pattern because now you go in hindsight, right? He's failed. He's got a win taken away from him for failing a marijuana test. And I get it. There's various opinions of whether marijuana should be legal. I don't have a dog in the race. Fine if you think that way.
Regardless, some people see that as lack of discipline.
Exactly, because what I'm saying is you still know if you fail that test for marijuana, you're going to risk a loss, or not a loss, or a no contest, or not even
fines,
fighting.
whatever.
So he still failed that. So that didn't cross his mind when that happened. You put it in the back burner because nothing else happened after that. But now you got missing weight. Okay, now you're starting to, do we have a pattern of a non-discipline with this guy, you know?
Yeah, but also you're missing weight in your hometown, first title defense, promotion is around you, you're the main event, your brother's on the undercard.
As any, you know, Norfolk, Virginia is home of Pernell Whitaker. You know what I mean? If anybody wants to know what I'm talking about with this homecoming, Norfolk is not a place that has a lot of things going on, right? But it's a tight-knit community there. You want to know what I'm talking about?
Proud community.
What I was looking for, watch Pernell Whitaker versus Greg Haugen when Whitaker wins the IBF lightweight title in Norfolk. Watch that fight and what I'm talking about, the reception Whitaker gets and the kind of branding they were trying to build around Keyshawn Davis. You know, where you're from, Pernell Whitaker town. You know what I mean? And we can see that we can build around that again. And Top Rank, frankly, does it the best. So you're with a promoter that would have done it the best. And it just imploded, dude. It just completely imploded. And then on top of that, what happened with his brother. We'll get into that in a bit.
The idea too, and to explain, we've all cut weight. Everybody's sitting at this sitting in this room. It's like landing a plane, right? Like you just want to like cruise in, and every now and then there's a bumpy landing, right? Where you got to really cut last week, something like that. Anything more, the rule of thumb, Chris, I want to ask you first. Anything more than 2 pounds is there was an injury late, there was an illness late, or you didn't try. 2 pounds, you can, all right, you didn't quite, oh man, there's something wrong in the last couple of days. I couldn't quite get in there. Anything over 2, you start going, yeah, this was either intentional or there was a serious problem.
For me, 2 pounds is absurd. But 2 pounds can happen because, listen, guys get get sick on fight week, excuse me. Traveling, flights get pushed back. You're in the air much more than you expected to be. Like you said.
Stuck in airports and you can't work out. You miss workouts that week.
Also dealing with airline food and what you have available to you, hydration, also the changing in altitude.
No, airline food, you just don't have to eat it.
Right.
Come on.
But also the altitude affects how your body holds water. So you could be holding water. 2 pounds I can see, but that's the upper limit. Anything beyond 2 pounds, you either missed it by a mile and your team knew it, or you just don't care. I don't know which one this was, but I think there should have been conversations going into fight week that you're not going to make weight. This is a very professional team. This is not like guys coming out of nowhere. This is a world champion defending his title. Keyshawn Davis, and he's with Bomac, and he's with that team. They know what's going on. They've all been making weight for a long time. So they knew what was happening. The lack of communication, I'd look at it as a lack of respect for the promotion, or a lack of respect for his opponent, lack of respect for the title, lack of respect for your hometown. You have when you're a champion, you have to wear that. The weight of that belt is real. Yeah. You have a town, you have a family, a people behind you, a community behind you, and acting like a champion is not just what you do in the ring; it's what you do outside as well.
And this was a can't miss moment, and he missed.
Yeah,
this was really a bad situation. And then add to the fact that on Wednesday, if you miss weight by 4.3 pounds, you know you're not making weight on Friday.
Right, on press conference, you're calling
on Wednesday,
Abdullah Mason.
You're arguing with Abdullah Mason. When you know on Friday you're going to have an egg on your face when you don't make weight. If I know I'm not going to make weight, which never happened, mind you, so I don't even know how this approach would be. But I'm saying, okay, if in hypotheticals, if I'm in that position, I'm going to attract as little attention as possible to myself at the press conference. I really am, because I already know it's going to be real miserable to try to make it before Friday, or if I don't intend to make it, it's going to look real bad. So I'm going to try to attract as little attention to myself as possible, so that this isn't even a more of a lightning rod on Friday when I miss weight by however much I'm going to miss it by. No, instead, this guy took over the press conference Wednesday, started arguing with Abdullah Mason, and that.
He elevated Abdullah in multiple ways. One, Abdullah got elevated to the main event, looked fantastic against a former tough guy.
Abdullah showed maturity beyond his years, because I don't even know if at 40-something years old now I wouldn't have argued back. No, Abdullah instead was super respectful and respectful and really, really poised in that press conference. Didn't go the tit for tat at all. Lets his punches handle everything, and which has always been the case, and still did it again, because that could have turned into listen, it could have promoted a future fight and whatnot. But it could have been a viral moment and whatnot, which I guess could be good these days. But I feel like Abdullah elevated his. I feel like Abdullah elevated his image.
There's 2 ways to go about it. I was super respectful. You were the opposite, right? In terms of building up, it worked for me. It worked for you.
I needed spice.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. I'd handle it in the ring. I always thought I was like
delicious.
Leading up to a fight, I'm like, I get to punch this guy in the face. I don't need to say anything to him beforehand. But they handle it in different ways. It's working for Abdullah, man. He looked great in the main event. He's now elevated to a position to fight for that title. And he handled it with such class and poise, which is his brand anyway. I know his fam. I know his team. They are top-notch class act individuals. And that doesn't surprise me at all, the way that he handled that. Even at his young age, he's coming out of this looking really good. And the Keyshawn Davis team, they took a lot of L's that night.
Guys who are Chris Algieri need guys like Paulie Malignaggi. I've always said that in fighting, right? When it comes to Chael Sonnen, Anderson Silva was quiet.
Yep.
You want a Chael Sonnen.
The samurai,
Right, you want a guy who's going to be in your face, because you don't have to now. I remember talking to Anderson Silva years ago and going,
you sell it. I'll
sell it. Great. That's not, once again, my brand is not getting in your face and yelling. It's very much Chael's brand. So let Chael do that. right? Sonny Liston needed a Muhammad Ali to get, do all the talking for him in a sense. But let's talk a little bit about that, because it looks like this week, according to Boxing Scene, Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes will meet for the 135-pound title, left vacant by this weight niche. So, Paulie, that idea, if he elevated his brand, he proved it with his fist, getting rewarded with the title shot.
Getting rewarded with a title shot, which, of course, everybody's been looking forward to. Abdullah stepping into the world-class level and stepping into the elite of the sport, which is sort of expected. It was just a matter of when, not if. So that fight is now going to happen and get signed. The lightweight division is starting to change again.
Yeah.
Lomachenko retiring, so the IBF title will now be vacant as well.
No, it's not Vegas. Muay
Oh, Muay Thai.
got elevated, yeah.
Oh, you got elevated?
Yeah, they elevated Muay Thai.
Oh, now they just elevate you. All right, all right. I mean, it's still a good fight.
I don't love that, but Muay Thai is a very good fighter.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, but what I'm saying is it's changing, but even the new guard, dude, this is 3 generations in a row of great lightweights. Because first you had the Teofimo, Lomachenko, Haney, Shakur Stevenson lightweight division. Shakur remained, everybody else went up. You know, Zepeda, Shakur, Gervonta Davis, which he was actually always there. He was just fighting cab drivers, but he was actually
But he was in there. He was in there. As a
he was there. He was in there. You can imagine what it'd be like, though, conversations. But he actually never fought.
Imagine this fight happening, right?
No, it's Chris Farley.
Yeah.
You can imagine what it'd be like, though. You know?
That was
Billy
Madison.
Billy Madison,
The truck driver, the bus driver.
But so he was there. But now you got the new guys. You got Keyshawn. Well, I guess
Anymore.
you had Keyshawn. I guess you had Keyshawn.
Not anymore.
Murataya, Abdullah Mason, Zepeda's still hanging around there as well.
There,
Farmer's still lurking.
Lamont Roach Jr., depending on how things go with him, right?
Although he's still a 130-pound champion.
Yeah, he's a big 30.
The lightweight division.
It's got some spice. It's got some spice. But all right, so let's talk a little bit about Keyshawn Davis. 140? I mean,
yeah.
You know, is that what we're talking about here? Is him at 140 pounds?
I mean,
obviously 4 and a third, 4.3 over. How many options does he have?
But also, he said immediately, he's like, I've outgrown the weight class. That means he's going to 140. So next weight class.
But you got to decide that after the fight, though. You can't.
Yeah.
you can't show.
No, you decide it when you don't make the weight.
Show up right at the weigh-in.
Yeah.
You know, you. I don't know.
He said it nonchalantly, too. He said, I outgrew the weight class. Like, what?
Thanks for letting us know.
Thanks, Master the Obvious.
But, okay.
Good observation, Chief. What was your first clue?
But there's been talk about him fighting up 140 for a while now. So this is not completely out of the blue. We hoped we were going to get more title fights with him. Obviously, he just won the title his last fight. We were hoping to get some. This defense would have been very good.
All right. I got an idea.
Please.
I got an idea because sometimes our pro box fighters, they elevate themselves to a good level.
Yes.
Justin Paldo's been looking good in fights, didn't make weight. Keyshawn Davis looking good in fights, didn't make weight. I'd say they're both of their entrances into 140 pounds against each other.
Bang.
So against each other. Keyshawn versus Justin Paldo to start out their charade in the lightweight division. They're foray.
We call that failing upwards.
Failing up into a big
fight. Honestly.
It is a good fight. It is a very good fight.
Right. So let me talk to you, Chris, on the nutrition side. You're a nutrition expert. It's part of what you do. You help fighters. At what point in camp are you going, this ain't gonna? Is it the drop in performance? In MMA, a lot of times it's how much time we're putting into the cut as opposed to getting ready for the guy. When it goes over a certain line, you start going, okay, we're spending so much time on road work and maintenance that we're not getting ready for the fight. What you as a trainer? What's your?
It all comes down to sparring. So everything comes down to sparring.
Okay.
When it comes to making weight, and every weight cut, even for the same athlete, is different every single fight. It's always different. Your bodies are different. The way you approach is different. I had mentioned, being sick in camp, getting hurt in camp. It happens, and it does affect your weight and your trajectory as you're coming down to make the weight come the weigh-in and to actually peak in terms of your physical performance. But it always comes down to sparring. That's what training camp is for. Training camp is you're sparring to get ready to fight. That is the closest thing there is to actually fighting. So that's what you're preparing for. That's where you get everything done that's on the mitts, on the focus work, on the heavy bag. Conditioning is all for you to be able to perform in the ring. And sparring is the closest thing that you can do to fight night. So I've had guys in camp where their sparring was super sharp, but their weight was a little high. And we said, you know what? We're good on sparring. Let's just focus on the weight, maybe 10 days out. More than a week out from, I usually like to spar the last week, the 7 days out, my last sparring session, sometimes 6. But I've had guys in camp, myself included, where it was just like, I feel really good. Sparring's been really sharp. We've left no stone unturned. We can take these next 10, 11 days and just focus on the weight and get the weight in the right position. You're not going to forget how to fight in 10 days. I've had others times where the weight was really good but sparring wasn't. So I was like, okay, I need to work on a few things. I need to be able to get this specific technique off because it's going to help me on fight night. I need extra sparring even on fight week. And then, so it really depends on where you're at in the sparring in terms of performing. Obviously, you're watching your weight as you're coming down. So that's one of those things where it's just you decide on the fly. But I would always base it around that last sparring
body's a little
session.
bit different too, right?
Everybody's different.
Everyone.
It's weird, and people always ask me. I've seen guys who were massive, shredded up, nothing to lose. I'm like, how does this guy make whatever?
Ooh, I got an answer for that.
And there are other guys who are like, okay, not a huge whatever, and they just don't have the discipline, whatever it is. It's not a body. It's not like just look at him. Certain guys are big for the weight class. A guy like Boots Ennis, you go, Jesus Christ, you make 147 pounds, but he's got the discipline. He has it down. Other guys don't.
There's also a physical, physical build and physiology to it. So certain fighters, you've got, different body types, right? You got the long, lean guys, right? That are basically a lot of bone. They got long, lean. Yeah, those guys, they don't hold a lot of water. It's the guys with the thick, round muscle bellies. Those guys, there's a lot of water in that muscle. You can pull that way. So those guys can walk around during camp a little heavier because they just have more reserves to be able to pull from. The taller, leaner guys usually have to be closer to weight. So if you got a Tommy Hearns type, you're not going to be able to pull 10 pounds the day of the weigh-in like some of the shorter, stockier guys are. Like a Sean Porter, for example, who's got a thick muscle belly.
We call him a linebacker.
Yeah, he looks like a pullback. And, so he has a lot of water that he can pull out of that muscle because he has those reserves. Guy like me, I don't have that much muscle to hold the water. I'm tall for the weight class, was lean, so I had to be a lot closer. And that's something you got to look out for. Keyshawn's a guy, he's lean all year round. He stays very lean, not big muscle belly. He's probably not going to be able to pull that much water out of him. Not as much as maybe a shorter, stockier guy. So he's a guy like you're watching, like a couple pounds can make a big difference on those taller, leaner guys. And
we have to discuss it, of course, post-fight. Kelvin Davis, I'm looking at right now on Arco right now, apologized for the actions of his brothers, Keyshawn and Keon Davis, in an altercation that happened the night of the fight in the locker room. What people don't understand, Paulie, is before a bell rings and after a bell rings, it's called assault. It's like, you know what I mean? If two guys get into a press conference, that is assault and battery, and in the wrong place at the wrong time, if someone takes things legally where they should go, there's no difference. The idea that, fighters, a lot of guys will, huff and puff and push at the weigh-in, but hey, I'm not getting hit for free. I'm not getting cut, having a cut over my eye and not having a fight. This idea of you can woof, 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 and you like a little spice, Paul, but you put hands on somebody before or after the fight, you're costing yourself money.
Yeah.
Let's even talk not about potential jail time. You're costing yourself money.
Yeah, all on the other stuff. The fight's over. I don't know, man. It's like,
I
don't know. When the fight was over for me, I was like, oh, dude, I've been holding in this animosity, the stress of the fight. Like they'll get a result, Like, dude, when the fight, as soon as the last round bell rang, I'm like, oh, I can let this whole thing go.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like
I don't have to be that guy right now.
Yeah, like I can let it go until the next camp, until the next fight. Because, dude, that's why, for all intents and purposes, even if I had beef with McGregor, I give him credit because to hold that image 24/7, for me, it would stress me out. But I would leave press conferences and I'll be like, oh, fuck yeah, I gotta beat myself. Like, dude, it wasn't me 24/7. Like, it's actually stress to play a character all the time.
Absolutely.
So when the fight was over, for me, I'm like, it's like I can tone it down. So I never understand when things like this happen, where it's like, you're going to leave the ring. You're going to take it to the back. You're going to take it to the parking lot. Like, I don't know what the background is of this. I'm sure there may be some background, but it's just a bad look considering that whole weekend had already involved Keyshawn, the brother, missing weight.
When we talk about a lack of maturity and a lack of discipline, Chris, are those kinds of things, altercations before and after the fight, an indication like, hey, be a professional? This is not how professionals behave.
Absolutely. There was a lot of what we saw this weekend that was a lack of professionality, lack of being what a champion is all about. But for me, I saw more of emotional spiraling. Keyshawn Davis has said in the past about having issues with mental health. He had this big homecoming, tons of pressure, misses the weight, more pressure, more media.
Is that an excuse though?
No, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying I'm just laying this all out here. So absolutely not making excuses. This is what champions do. Champions deal with pressure. That. If this sport was just about physicality, there'd be a lot of world champions out there that you have never seen. It's not. It's What happens in the ring is just a super small part of what this is being a world champion. 99.9% of the time, you're not the guy in the ring. You're the guy outside the ring, and how you handle that is what I think a champion's all about. And I think Keyshawn Davis honestly, he broke under the pressure. I think everything that led up to that moment, the homecoming, defending the title, then the weight, the bad press, watching his brother lose, which is a very emotional thing, and then it all came to a head at the end, and it's unfortunate, and it's one of those things. To me, that just looked like an emotional outburst at the end of like I said, a bunch of L's gotten taken by the team, and it got aggressive and violent and illegal, as you said.
I remember hearing an interview with Ray Leonard one time where he was talking about something similar to what you're saying, where he's basically saying, part of being a star is involved more than just being the champion. There's, you're training. You don't want to sometimes do the press conference. You don't want to deal with the media. You don't want to, but doing it gracefully with that wink and a smile and all that other stuff, that involves around the results you get. That's part of creating that star brand, because if it's just fighting and then you reserve yourself away, nobody can build anything up. The results speak for themselves to a degree, but star power is understanding how to handle all those other variables. And when Leonard is explaining it to me, and then you see the way he handled his career, you're like, you get exactly what he's talking about.
It's funny you brought him up, because I talked about this on an interview yesterday about the three fighters that I grew up watching and trying to act like, try and be like, and part of this was because of who my grandfather loved and told me about, was number 1, Alexis Arguello, number 2 was Sugar Ray Leonard, and number 3 was Oscar De La Hoya. All guys that were gentleman champions.
Class.
They handled it in the ring, they were killers in the ring, and they were absolute gentlemen outside of the ring.
Oscar before the clapback.
Oscar while he was fighting, not as a promoter.
When Oscar was competitive in the 90s when he was at the top of his game. Next level, a promoter Oscar, different guy. But I still respect that too. It's hilarious.
Not clapback, different guy who's still funny.
I'm more of a fan of the clapback Thursday Oscar. I don't know.
No, he's one of the best follows in boxing, for sure.
I'm going to end with a story that I don't often tell. I will not out who these people are. I was commentating Bellator. It's the middle of the night. It's 2 a.m. I hear a fighter and his coach yelling. And I woke up and I recognize a voice. And I go, why are they yelling at 2 o'clock in the morning? The fight is tomorrow. Right? What the hell's going on? And the fighter's yelling and screaming.
Is this a main event?
Co-main.
Okay.
And
so high
up on the card. And he's yelling at his coach, he's screaming. And the coach, whom I know, there was this pause. And he goes, you're just not ready for this level.
Oof.
You're yelling at me at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Looking for a way out of this fight. The coach goes, hey, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You're screaming and yelling. You're not mentally ready for this level. Yeah, and he got
it's a quiet quit.
Murdered. But it's that thing of, if you don't want to be here in fighting, folks, you'll find a way out. At the weigh-in, in the fight, before the fight, you'll start a fight, you'll get pulled over with something in your car. You'll do something to get out of this, because you can't sit on the bench. You can't go, all right, today's not my day, have the other quarterback. It's you, bro. And if you don't want to be there, you'll find a way out. There, Fight Knowledge. That's what we dropped. Jimmy Smith alongside the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi. Got a little deep today, but we like that. We like a little spice. Anyway, we'll see you next time here on Boxing Scene as it makes news. You'll find out about it here. Tune in, find out why millions are watching.